All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'm going to start off this lesson by giving all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rahakadash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and have taught me this word in truth and sincerity. And peace and mercy to the hopeful elect. All right, starting with 144,000. This is your fellow servant of Moth, all right, of GMS Toronto, coming at you again with another live lesson. And this lesson, all right, as you see the title, Aaron Russo's conversation with you know whom, all right? Aaron Russo's conversation with you know whom. And I'm pretty sure it was Apostle Gabar who brought out, this conversation, brought out the information in terms of this conversation to Israel. This is where I heard it from, at least. But I've been hearing him, the Spirit had been on him to bring it out as of recent, even more so. And it makes sense because, the MLTB, the mark of the beast, is right around the corner. Okay, so anyways, the Spirit had me go back and watch that clip. It's hard to find on YouTube, but, I found it. And at least it was hard for me. And instantly I was inspired to do a lesson on that conversation that he had with one of the bankers, top bankers. And he spoke about that conversation with Alex Jones. So I have the clip here, okay? But before I play the clip, I have two precepts I want to open up with. So the first one here is Obadiah 1 and 6. Okay. So Obadiah chapter 1, verse 6. Okay, straight to the point. It says, "How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up?" Okay. And one of the major things that Esau kept in the dark, so to speak, right? It was really hidden in plain sight, was this technology, right? The mark of the beast that's spoken about in Revelation 13th chapter, which is a chip. It will be, right? You have many versions of it. You have the RFID. You have other versions. I think NFC, near frequency something, or NSF. No, not NSF. It's something else. But you have different versions of it. But nevertheless, it will be a device that will be put into your body. Okay. And everything that we see in terms of even this weather, right? Because it's supposed to cause multiple blackouts. Supposedly, it's already caused multiple blackouts. Civil unrest, right? The dollar tanking. Okay, these nations creating alternatives outside of the dollar, right? Which will lead to a collapse. All these events are going to lead to the MOTB, the mark of the beast, that great hour of temptation that will come to try the whole world, all right? Come upon the whole world to try them. And this has been sought out. This has been searched out, all right? Basically by the Heavenly Father through his Son via the Holy Spirit, all right? Onto the apostles on down. Okay, so let's go from here. Let's go to Isaiah 46 and 9. I'm going to read this in the NLT. So this is Isaiah 46 and 9. Okay, it says here in the King James, I'll start in the King James first, then I'll move over. It says, "Remember the former things of old, for I am Yahweh, and there is none else. I am Yahweh, and there is none like me." Okay, declaring, this is why, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, "My counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure." Right? NLT, it says, "Remember the things I have done in the past." Okay, all his great works, wonders, and signs. Right? For I alone am Yahweh. Right? What other power outside of the Most High Yahweh has done what he's done? None. Okay, because there is no other power. Okay, and any other stories of these other gods are just that, stories, fictional. It's not history. You actually have, evidence outside of, we already believe, but you have actual archaeological evidence of um, things like Sodom and Gomorrah's destruction, right? You find sulfur balls in the area of Sodom and Gomorrah, where the Lord said he had fire and brimstone come down from the heavens and destroy that place, right? Lot's wife, okay, the Noah's Ark on Mount Ararat. Esau even found some chariot wheels, all right, belonging to Egypt in the Red Sea. Okay, so what other God has the reputation of our God, Yahweh? None. So, anyways, verse 10, okay, it says, I'll read verse 9 again, NLT. Remember the things I have done in the past, for I alone am Yahweh. I am Yahweh, and there is none like me. Only I can tell you the future. You see, before it even happens. That's what the Lord has done to the nation of Israel and the rest of the world via his prophets. Okay, telling you, going back to 2,000 years ago with Saint John, or John the Revelator. Okay, uh, uh, speaking about the MOTB, the mark of the beast. So, verse 10, it says, only I can tell you the future before it even happens. Everything I plan will come to pass, for I do whatever I wish. And this is the Lord's movie. This is why we always say this. All right, this life that we live, this existence is the Lord's movie. Okay, and he's given his whole full elect a director's cut, so to speak. Okay, now one more before I play this clip here. This is just to back my point. This is Amos 3:1. Or actually, let's get right to the point. Amos 3:7. It says what? Surely the Lord Yahweh power will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants, the prophets. You see? NLT says, indeed, the sovereign Lord Yahweh never does anything until he reveals his plans to his servants, prophets. Okay? You got to see, well, the whole world's going to see who the true prophets of Yahweh Bashim El Shai are. Okay? Starting with Israel, because you got a lot of Israel camps that buck up against the MOTB for what it really is, or rather they're trying to snake around and add it in there slightly into their doctrine so that when it does go down, all right, they can play face, so to speak, and say, see, we always told you this is what it was going to be. But you can fool man, but you can't fool Yahweh Bashim El Shai, all right? So let's get this clip here. I'm going to play this, probably, it's a 10-minute clip, but I'm going to play like the first 5 minutes. Okay, so this is fair use, fair use, fair use. I'm not receiving any monetization from this video. Okay, I'm only sharing this video for educational purposes only. All right, so fair use, fair use, fair use. And you see here the title says Nicholas. Yes, it was Nicholas Rockefeller. Right. Nicholas Rockefeller admitted the elite's goal is 100% microchipped and enslaved world population. All right, so let's go ahead and play this without further ado. It says this is a 10-minute excerpt from Alex Jones' recent interview with the late Aaron Russo. Yeah, because it took him out. Aaron Russo is the producer of the movies Trading Places and America, Freedom to Fascism. Yeah.
The ultimate goal that these people have in mind is the goal to create a one world government run by the banking industry, run by the bankers, and they're doing it in sections. The European currency, the euro, and the European Constitution is one part of it. Now they're trying to do it in America with the North American Union, right? And they want to create a new currency called the Amero, right? And the whole agenda is to create a one world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is getting me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish. And all money will be in your chips. And so instead of having cash, anytime you have money in your chip, they can take out whatever they want to take out whenever they want to. If they say you owe us this much money in taxes, they just deduct it out of your chip digitally.
Total control.
Total control. And if you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, they can just turn off your chip, and you have nothing. You can't buy food. You can't do anything. It's total control of the people.
And that chip's connected to a database that has your purchasing records, what you do, what you sell.
Everything is in there, And so they want a one world government controlled by them, everybody being chipped, all your money in those chips, and they control the chips and they control people. And you become a slave. You become a serf to these people. That's their goal. That's their intentions.
Eric, can you be specific about when you met Rockefeller, how it happened?
Yep. So let's get some precepts. Let's go here first and foremost, of course. Cannot be talking about the chip without getting Revelation 13, and let's start at 14. Yeah, I'll start at 14. All right, so this is Revelation 13 and 14. It says, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth, right? And who's deceiving the whole earth? The top wicked elite, right? And their stooges under them, okay? And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles, okay, which are ultimately his technology, right? His technology, all right, serves as his miracles, counterfeit miracles, really. Second Thessalonians chapter 2 tells us that, right? It says, which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. And who gave him that power to do all that? Job 9:24, the Lord is the world is given to the hand of the wicked, right? And he covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, who and where is he? Well, the Most High Yahweh gave him that power, because the Most High Yahweh controls both sides. Okay, let me get that real quick. Isaiah 40, 45 and 7. All right, so Isaiah 45 and 7, all right? This is NLT. It says, I'll read in King James actually. It says, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. And he's used this devil, all right, to do so, to bring about evil on the earth. Okay. I, the Lord Yahweh, do all these things. I created the light and this is NLT. I create the light and make the darkness. I send good times and bad times. That's right. I, the Lord Yahweh, am the one who does these things. Okay. We go back to Revelation. Okay. It says, Revelation 13 and 14, and deceiveth them that dwelleth on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, right? Saying to them that dwell on the earth, and the beast, all right, is NATO and the EU. All right, that's the beast, the NATO and the EU. Okay. Saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live, and that's the ancient Roman Empire. Okay, the pagan Roman Empire. Okay, it fell. Rather, it was transferred to Jake. Right, Jake took over. Right, and then Esau came back. All right, 1300s, 1325 AD. Okay, and took over Europe, Rome at that time. That's what you call the Renaissance. And they pushed forward towards America. Okay, and you have a thing called the American Renaissance. Yes, you had many Renaissance really throughout the medieval era. Okay, so I got some information from chat. Okay, and I'm not gonna read the whole thing. I'm just gonna get to the points. Okay, so here. Okay, so it says here, the wounded power that never really died. Rome didn't fall, it shed its armor and learned to wear suits. When the legions collapsed, the methods survived. Romans' genius was never brute force alone, it was administration, okay? It says taxation, law, currency control, citizenship tiers, infrastructure dominance, narrative authority. So controlling the narrative, right? That's that's the wound that healed. The sword vanished, and the sword never actually vanished. All right, because we know this devil was blessed by the sword. He was blessed by Isaac, who is Yahweh in the spirit, okay, in the reincarnation, by the sword. Okay, so that never vanished. Chat's going off on here. It says the system stayed though. So what was revived, right, was the Roman system, right? But now in America, and now they're furthering that system and taking and making it technological, a technological Tower of Babel, a technological Rome via what? The chip, the RFID chip. Okay, so let's continue down. It says here, America as the heir, not the origin, right? Because yeah, America is the eighth horn coming out of the seventh. Okay. So America really is Rome extended. It says here, America didn't invent its framework. It inherited Rome's blueprint. Okay. Look at the parallels. Not mystical, just practical. Yeah, and really they're both spiritual and practical. It says Senate structure. Okay. Republican language, imperial eagle symbolism, capital uh, architecture. Yeah. Centralized law over vast territory, military projection beyond borders. Rome ruled by roads, America rules by trade routes, cables, satellites, and finance rails. Yeah. Different tools, same logic. And we have here American finance as a modern Roman treasury. It says Rome learned something early: control money, right? And you control loyalty. That's right. Because the scriptures say that money is a defense, right? And you need money to function. So it says modern parallels. Central banking replaces imperial minting, okay? Debt replaces tribute. Interest replaces change. Even though debt replaces tribute, right? We're still in debt. America's still in debt. Okay, that's because um, uh, um, you know they basically create a false balance when it comes to money, right? By printing, but never having any backing in terms of gold or silver to all the dollars they print, right? That's why there's an inflation, and that's how you create debt. But they're able to do this because there's always been a high demand for the American dollar, for oil, and even just international trade between countries. Okay. Let's also go into that fornication. And all these other countries and nations have taken part and drunken of that wine, and they have done the same thing in terms of printing dollars after dollars after dollars. It's called quantitative easing, a fancy word for printing more dollars. Okay. It says um, debt replaces tribute, interest replaces chains, inflation. Well, yeah, interest replaces chains, inflation replaces conquest. Um, Rome tax provinces, America debt binds nations. You see, even though Rome eventually um, fell into debt, and this is why they started mixing the metals of gold with um, other inferior metals like copper, nickel, and so on and so forth. Okay, so nothing's new under the sun. It says no invasion needed, just refinancing. Empires used to arrive on ships. Now they arrive as aid packages. Rome upgraded. Yeah, okay. I'm not gonna get everything here. I just want to get some points off of here. Um, it says major assets to new provinces. Rome controlled grain, roads, ports, metals, and land. Modern Rome, being America, controls energy, food systems, housing, pharmaceuticals, data, credit, and technology platforms. So all this, right? Energy, food systems, housing, pharmaceuticals, data, credit is all going to be on the chip. That's what I do, is consolidate everything to one thing and then put it in you. Okay, because really and truly, these the top wicked elite, right? They have a God complex. They want to supersede the Most High. Okay, the scriptures say, "I will be like the Most High." Isaiah 14. Okay, so it says, let's skip down here. Culture as the new religion. Yeah, I can get this. This is pretty good. It says Rome understood spectacle, bread, circus, narratives. America perfected it. Entertainment shapes morality. Media crowns heroes. Institutions define truth. Repetition replace reason. So when we go back to Revelation, this is how they've been able to, it says, and deceive them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles, which have power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image, right? A system, a world system to the beast, right? To the which had a wound by a sword and did live. Yeah, so they made a world system, all right, with America at the head of it, the capital of Rome, okay, New Rome, all right, and they did it based upon ancient Rome, the pagan Roman Empire. Okay, so it says here, I'll read it again. It says entertainment shaped morality, media crowns heroes, institutions define truth, repetition replace reason. Rome said, honor the empire and live. Modern Rome says, affirm the system or be erased. You see? Um, let's get down here. You know what? I will use this. It says, ancient Rome used images, statues of Caesar, and power, emperor worship, public loyalty rituals, right? So worshiping of all their many gods, which are really Greek gods repackaged. Okay, it says modern Rome used, which is America. Modern Rome is America. Also modern Egypt and Babylon the Great. It says digital identity, economic participation requirements, platform obedience, social compliance, scoring formal or informal. The image is no longer something you bow down to, right? Because in the ancient world, you bow down to actual statues and idols. And people still do today, right? But it's more so what? It's something you log into now. You see? That system now is something you log into. And we already do all this now. You log into your phone, you log into your social media, right? You log into work, right? So now they're taking the next step further, right? Which has always been the plan, and have you always logged in to the Internet of Things, the IoT, there's the Internet of Body and IoE, Internet of Everything, Internet of Body, IOB, okay? It's so much goddamn acronyms. If you cannot participate in the system, you cannot buy, sell, work, or function. You see? That's not religious, it's administrative and far more powerful. Yeah. And, in a sense, it is religious because once you take the chip, you are now Esau Edoms and you belong to Satan, the spiritual demon Satan, because you're not created under the image of the Most High. The Most High didn't create man to have chip in them, you have metal devices in them. Okay? So you no longer are a creation of the Most High. And that's what this devil is trying to do, right? He's trying to recreate everything the Lord has created in his image. Okay? Okay. Technological Rome, the final evolution. This is where Carney's phrase lands hard. Yeah. Yeah, because he said New World Order. Technological Rome doesn't rule land. Well, it does. Going off on that. It rules land. It says it rules standards and land, protocols, financial rails, digital identity, AI governance, carbon accounting, biometric verification, programmable currency. Rome once counted people for taxation. Now it counts. Oops. It says now it counts your spending, your movements, your speech, your carbon, your compliance. Not tyranny by whip, tyranny by permission. Okay, you're not punished. You're simply restricted. But yeah, chat. We know chat. Is controlled by these small hats, so they gotta have to, you know, swindle it a little bit. But we know, according to the scriptures, this man is going to cause, not cause. Well, yeah, it will cause all. But if you don't take it, the chip, um, people are gonna be put to death. All right, people are gonna be put to death. The scriptures say he's gonna come down having great wrath. Why? Because he knows he has a short time. How does he know he has a short time? Well, he's being exposed. All right, and he's seeing the prophecies that the prophets are speaking. All right, coming to pass and taking place. And then he's seeing whatever he's seeing via his charmers and prognosticators. All right, within the spiritual realm, whatever they're telling him, or spiritual demon Satan telling them. Okay, so all right, so this is last point here. It says, why is it called a revival? It says because nothing here is new. All right, it's the same spirit. You see, centralized authority, economy or economic control, moral flexibility. Yeah, which means you could do whatever you want. Live, do as I wilt. Moral flexibility. Okay, that's really what that's going into. Elite governance, population management, empire without borders. The wound healed when Rome stopped trying to rule bodies and learned to rule systems. Yeah, well, it's the same thing. When you rule systems, you rule bodies. Okay, because those bodies operate in that system. Mm, yeah, so that's basically it on that. Okay, so let's go back here. And let's continue to verse 15. Okay, it says, and he had power to give life onto the image of the beast. Okay, and how do you have power to do that? Well, not only did the Lord give him power, but it tells you, it says that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Okay, this is why, starting with the apostles and the bishops and elders on down, all right, the common sentiment via the Holy Spirit is um, understand what you're involved in. We have to understand what we're involved in. Okay, counting the cost. And with that being done, you also have to pray, because it's only going to be through the will and the spirit of Yahweh Shemel Shah that's going to get all of us, all right, past the hour of temptation. Now I got a little bit more in chat in terms of giving life, because how he's going to do that is mainly through his policies. That's how he does that, right? When you read verse 15, and and he had power to give, or Salak, he had power to give life onto the image of the beast via his policies. Okay, that the image of the beast should both speak. So all these nations, even though they are fighting among each other, it's a show, it's a stage. All right, and the whole joke is that some of it is real and some of it isn't, because the scriptures do tell us that there is the house, Satan's house will be divided. Okay, but nevertheless, above these leaders of the world, you have is the top wicked elite, and they all their stooges, all right, get the same script. Okay, so the whole world is going to move towards towards the MOTB, all right, implementing the MOTB, the mark of the beast. It's just that these nations think that they're going to be at the head of this new world order, just like America was at the head of the old world order. Okay, so real quick here in chat, it says, okay, Okay, it says here technology as the breath. So it says think practically. A system is alive when it can, right, identify you, track you, approach or deny you, or slack it, approve or deny you, respond intensely, or respond instantly. Yeah, going to the 6G network. Okay, operate everywhere. That's not spiritual. Well, it is spiritual. Chat's going off. Is info That's infrastructure. So it's both spiritual and infrastructure. RFID, biometrics, digital ID, centralized finance. These aren't evil by themselves. Chat's going off. They become dangerous when they are mandatory and ununified and unified. Slacky. Yeah, but it is all wicked. Okay, here's the image speaking, how systems talk. It says systems don't speak with mouths, they speak with policies. All right. When the legislation is passed, the image speaks. You see, when regulation tightens, the image speaks. When compliance becomes required for basic life functions, the image speaks. You see, its voice sounds like you must adapt. You are not authorized. And this is all AI. Your access has been restricted. Your account has been suspended. Okay. So you get the point. That's how this system speaks. It's through its policies, as it said here, right? Um, with policies, legislations passed, and regulations tightened. All right. And this is why there's been so many psyops, man, because they need chaos to bring order. Hegelian dialectic, order out of chaos as well. Hegelian dialectic is problem, reaction, solution. Um, okay, one more. It says policy is the modern decree. In ancient Rome, Caesar used edicts. Today, power moves through what? Legislation, executive orders, regulatory agencies, international agreements, emergency measures. Each one looks small alone. Together, they build a cage, one bar at a time. And this reminds me of the story that Apostle Kabar brings out about the pigs, right? And the man that was building a fence around the pigs, and he didn't build the gate until the very end, right? As long as they were kept occupied with the food, which represents the bread and circus, right? And the wine of Babylon, they didn't realize that a cage was being built around them. That's the very same thing that's happening today, right before our eyes. But they that can see are the hopeful elect. Okay. So we're not ignorant of Satan's devices. Rome never conquered all at once. It normalized control. That's the trick. Yeah. Which evidently has it conquering all at once. All right. Yeah. It says here, um, the system controls buying, selling, employment, healthcare, travel, identification. Then refusing the system means exclusion. Okay, it says not immediate violence, which it does. It is immediate violence because the scriptures tell us, like I've been quoting, all right, that he knows he's going to have a short time, so he can come down with that great wrath. All right, trying to see if there's anything more here. This is a good one. It says, when a society builds systems so powerful that no one can live outside of them, distant equals exclusion. No one can live outside of them. Dis, Dissent equals exclusion. Conscience equals penalty. Yeah, they don't want anybody to think for themselves. This is why they want to put a chip in you. Then power has replaced principle. All right. Anyways, so that's all. I don't want to get too much on this. So back here, Revelation 13 and 15, and he had power to give life onto the image of the beast, right? By the way of policies and regulations and legislations, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. And we always go into that word mark, right? Which is, I mean, really, you all should look it up for yourselves, right? But it's koragma, okay?
Strong's G 5480. Charagma. Charagma.
Right? It says a stamp, an imprinted mark. It says of the mark stamped on the forehead or in the right hand as a badge of the followers of the Antichrist, right? Which is not just one Antichrist. There's many Antichrists. If you're against Yahweh Shem Shah, you're an Antichrist, okay? The mark branded upon horses, yeah, because you're cattle, right? To the top with the elite, okay? Things carved, so it's in your skin, okay? This is going to be in the skin, sculpture, graven work of adulterous image, and that's what people will become, an adulterous image of Esau Edom's making, okay? It says here, Strong's definition, a stamp as a badge of servitude. And when you go into the etymology, I'm not going to go into all this because I'm short on time, but it's Korax, right? And that's going into basically the delivery system, okay, of the chip. As you see, it says a pail or stake or palisade. So the needle itself is the Korax, all right? And the chip that's in the needle, all right, is the mark of the beast. That's the literal stamp or the mark, okay? So finishing up, it says, and he caused, verse 16, he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, right? Or the name of the beast, or the number of his name, right? Which the mark will have all three of those things: the name of the beast and the number of his name, which is going to, as the scripture say, verse 18, here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, right? And his number is 603 score and 666. Okay. And that man is Esau Edom, starting with the top wicked elite on down. All right, so let's continue on in this clip. I'll go back a little bit because he had mentioned everything I just went into.
All the people.
And that chip's connected to a database that has your
Nothing. If you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, they can turn off your chip, and you have nothing. You can't buy food. You can't do anything. It's total control of the people.
And that chip's connected to a database that has your purchasing records, what you do, what you sell.
Everything is in there, you know? And so they want a one world government controlled by them, everybody being chipped, all your money in those chips, and they control the chips and they control people. And you become a slave. You become a serf to these people. That's their goal. That's their intentions.
Eric, can you be specific about when you met Rockefeller, how it happened in these discussions?
I met Rockefeller through a female attorney I knew who called me up one day and said, one of the Rockefellers would like to meet you. I made a video called Mad as Hell, and he'd seen the video and wanted to meet me. I knew I was running for governor of Nevada. So sure, I'd love to meet him. And I met him and I liked him. And he was a very, very smart man. And we used to talk and share ideas and thoughts. And he's the one who told me 11 months before 9/11 ever happened that there was going to be an event. Never told me what the event was going to be, but there was going to be an event. And out of that event, we were going to invade Afghanistan to run pipelines from the
Right, going into the PSYOPs, okay?
Caspian Sea. We were going to invade Iraq, you know, to take over the oil fields, establish a base in the Middle East, and make it all part of the New World Order. And we go after Chavez in Venezuela. And sure enough, later 9/11 happened. And I remember he was telling me how
And it's funny, what really caught my eye, because I've watched this conversation a couple times now. But Venezuela, he had mentioned Venezuela. And look what just happened, right? So that's the spirit.
Now you're gonna see soldiers looking in caves for people in Afghanistan and Pakistan and all these places, and there's gonna be this war on terror, which is no real enemy, and the whole thing's a giant hoax, but it's a way for the government to take over the American people.
He told you it was going to be a hoax.
Oh yeah, there's no question. He says there's gonna be war on terror, and he's laughing. There's no, who are we fighting? I mean, why do you think 9/11 happened, and then nothing's happened since then? Do you think that our security is so great here that these people who pulled off 9/11 who were able can't knock down another plane? Come on, it's ridiculous. 9/11 was done by people in our own government and our own banking system to perpetuate the fear of the American people into subordinating themselves to anything the government wants them to do. That's what it's about, and to create this endless war on terror. And that's why and that was the first lie. And the next lie was going into Iraq, to get Saddam Hussein out with his weapons of mass destruction. That was the next lie.
Now, specifically, this was a little over 6 years ago.
This one.
Okay, so let's go. I got two precepts. Let's get this here. Micah 2:1. I'll get it in the King James NLT. It says, "Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand." Okay. They covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, and even a man and his heritage. Okay. So you heard what he said, like they want total control. Okay. But everything is it's a hoax, right? It's a farce, right? But this is what it's called, psyops. These things are, which is what a psychological operation. That's what these events are for. Like he was mentioned 911, right? That was a psychological operation, right? Obviously on the psyche of the world, not just the American people, but of the world. And then through that, he was able to bring about policies. Like one of the major policies, it was what's it called, the Patriot Act, where now as a citizen you could be a T, right? A T heiress. Okay. So it says here in the NLT, "What sorrow, right, awaits you who lie awake at night, thinking up evil plans? You will rise at dawn and hurry to carry them out." Yeah, because you have a short time. Simply because you have the power to do so. When you want a piece of land, you find a way to seize it. When you want someone's house, you take it by fraud and violence. And this is why you see wars, right? Because these wars are set up by bankers, right? To what? Take the land, have control over its resources, its natural resources, right? And basically have control over the people of that land as well as your government. Okay, you cheat a man of his property, stealing his family's inheritance. Okay, verse 3 says, "But this is what the Lord Yahweh says: I will reward your evil with evil. You won't be able to pull your neck out of the noose. Sheesh. You will no longer walk around proudly, for it will be a terrible time." Okay, and that's true. Starting with Esau, Edom, all the way down, the top weak elites all the way down, even though they're going to be preserved from the destruction and the perils of Jacob's trouble, because they're going to be running into their caves, which are the bunkers, modern day bunkers. Okay, they're being preserved for slavery. That's why the Lord's going to allow them to escape the missiles. But the rest of their stooges under them, they're going to die here in America or over there in America. Okay, and everybody else that takes the trip. Let's go from here. Let's get Psalms 36:1. Okay, I'm gonna read this in NLT. It says, For the choir director, a psalm of David, the servant of the Lord. Sin whispers to the wicked deep within their hearts. They have no fear of Yahweh at all. That's right, Yahweh at all. Yep. You know what? I will go back and forth. In the King James, it says, "The transgression of the wicked says within his heart that there is no fear of Yahweh before his eyes." And this is why you see this devil so proud because he really doesn't fear the Most High. Like that's hey man, when you go into Esau, at least for me, I glorify the Most High even more because how did you make a devil like this? Okay, he literally has no fear of the Most High at all in his heart, in his mind. Anyhow, continuing on, it says, verse 2, for he flattereth himself in his own eyes. You see, until his iniquity be found to be hateful. And this is the time we're in now, because you're being exposed. Your iniquity is being found to be hateful before the eyes of everybody, the whole world. Okay, right to the very top, right up into the heavens. Okay, because Scripture says that his sins, right, her sins have reached up into the heavens, which means the heavenly realm is talking about this devil and his wickedness. All right, and the whole host of heaven, all right, is begging the Lord to destroy this devil, just like us down here. Verse 3, the words of his mouth are iniquity and deceit. He hath left off to be wise and to do good. That's right. He deviseth mischief upon his bed. He setteth himself in a way that is not good. He abhorreth not evil. Yeah, and he never can. Actually, NLT, it says, everything they say is crooked and deceitful. They refuse to act wisely or to do good. Of course not, right? They were never made to. They lie awake even when they act like it. It's just that. It's an act, okay? The scripture, Sirach chapter 10 tells about that. Never trust thy enemy. They lie awake at night, hatching sinful plots, okay? Their actions are never good. They make no attempt to turn from evil. Of course not. Okay, so let's go back to this clip. And call out Yahweh Shemel Shai is 144.
Was
11 months before 9/11.
yeah.
And Nick Rockefeller, he's a lawyer. He's become your friend over the previous years, and he's saying to you that there's going to be this big event, and then out of that we're going to have a war on terror, and it's just going to go on and on.
Right. An endless war without any real enemy. That you can have, so you can never define a winner.
And did he say that it's going to be perfect because you can't define an enemy? It just goes
Yeah,
on?
you can't define a winner. There's no one who's going to beat. So it goes on and on forever. And they can do whatever they want. They scare the hell out of the American public. Look, this whole war on terror is a fraud. It's a farce. It's very difficult to say it out loud because people are intimidated against saying it. Because if you say it, they want to make you into a nutcase. But the truth has to come out. That's why I'm doing this interview. The fact of the matter happens to be that the whole war on terror is a fraud. It's a farce. There's a war going on in Iraq because we invaded Iraq. I think they're fighting, But the war on terror, that's a joke, And until we discover what really happened on 9/11 and who was responsible for 9/11, because that's where the war on terror emanates from. That's where it comes from. It was 9/11 that allowed this war on terror to begin. And until we get to the bottom root of 9/11, the truth of 9/11, we'll never know about the war on terror.
Aaron, you said that he was, and I think it's important, and I know this about the Rockefellers from Dr. Dennis Cuddy and many others. You'll be 20 years old in a lunch line at college and say Rockefeller. And they're experts at recruiting and getting what they call players. And that clearly I want to make it specific and just to reiterate what you said last night.
Yeah. Let me go back a little bit.
That he was, and I think it's important.
That's where it comes from. It was 9/11 that allowed this war on terror to begin. And until we get to the bottom root of 9/11, the truth of 9/11, we'll never know about the war on terror.
Aaron, you said that he was, and I think it's important, and I know this about the Rockefellers from Dr.
Right. So he had mentioned the truth has to come out, and the Lord said he'll pour his spirit upon all flesh. Right. And like the other brother here, Alba Yeshwamba of GMS Dallas, he always claims a third witness. You have the two witnesses, right? But the third witness, all right, is this devil himself and the heathens alike. Okay, the scriptures say that his own tongue shall fall upon them; their own tongue shall fall upon themselves. So let me get 2 more precepts, and I'll get 3 more precepts and close it out. Let's get Amos chapter 5, verse 10, straight to the point. All right, so Amos chapter 5, verse 10, it reads, they hate him that rebuketh in the gate. Okay, in the ancient world, the gate was where most traffic and business was dealt. Okay, so today, fast forwarding, this is why you see a bunch of Israelite camps in various places of business, right? Traffic, okay, like the downtown areas. But the major highway is the internet highway, so to speak. Like Apostle Kabar coins, the internet does our heavy lifting, and the top wiki elite hate it. They hate it. Okay, right down to 2/3 of our people. They hate the rebuke in the gate, and they abhor him that speaketh uprightly. Okay, it says how you hate honest judges, how you despise people who tell you the truth. Right, this is an NLT. Okay, and really, I think about 2/3 of Israel when I read this, because that's exactly them. But of course, the top wiki elite are just as bad, if not even worse. And maybe 2/3 are even worse. This is Isaiah 29. Let's go to Isaiah 29 and 18. All right, so Isaiah 29 and 18. And I'm going to read this in the NLT. Or no, it's okay. I'll keep it in King James. It says, I'll go back and forth. Isaiah 29 and 18. It says here in the King James, and in that day shall the deaf hear the words of the book. And that's the spiritually deaf, right? Talking about the Israelites and really the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. Okay. It says, and in that day shall the deaf hear the words of the book. Okay. And that day really goes back to 1969. Okay. Where when Abba Bivens came on the scene, right? And the spirit was on him to break away from the commandment keepers, right? Which we believe him to be Elijah coming back to fulfill the prophecy. Whether you believe it or not, doesn't matter. We don't give a shit. All right. But those that know, we know. Okay. It says, and hear the words of the book in the eyes of the blind. Okay. So our mind's eye, or our mind's eye, all right, can see. The scriptures talk about the eye salve. That's his word, this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding via the Holy Spirit. Shall see out of obscurity. That's all that's in this world. You heard Aaron Russo talking about how they wage wars, right? And make it obscure so that no one knows who's what. Or to create boogeymans, right? To keep the spotlight over here while they're doing and setting up, all right, their evil plots over there. Okay, sleight of hand as well is what it's called. That's all the world is full of. Okay, but the Holy Spirit via this truth is allowed to see through all that bullshit. Okay, and out of darkness, it says the meek also shall increase their joy in the Lord Yahweh, right? Via this truth and wisdom and understanding, leading up into salvation and rulership in the kingdom of heaven. And the poor among men shall rejoice in the Holy One of Israel. Okay. Verse 20, for the terrible one is brought to naught, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off. That's right. And this is what we're waiting for. All right. And this is why we chant down Babylon, all right, via the Holy Spirit and the scriptures day in and day out. We're waiting for the terrible one to be brought to nothing. Okay, and the scorners to be consumed, and all that watch for iniquity, which have their hand in wickedness, to be cut off. All right, and the Lord's going to do that by the way of thermonuclear fire, the ICBM, which by the way of ICBM missiles, but also Yahweh Shai and the host of heaven, and then furthering that with the whole elect coming back down. All right, New Jerusalem coming out of heaven. All right, he's going to make us a sharp threshing instrument. Verse 21, it says, that make a man an offender. That's the point, for a word. And this is the time we're coming into, that they're going to make us an offender for the word, which leads into famine of the word anyways. So they're playing right into the hands of the Most High. Take a man, that make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate. Right? So all kind of traps of snare are laid, right, for the Israelites. It's starting with the Israelites, really, and starting with the whole elect of the nation of Israel, but all Israelites and all people that speak up against the New World Order, all right, and his evil plans. And the only ones that will not fall, all right, by these traps and snares are the whole elect. Okay, because Yahweh Bashim Shai is going to be with them in spirit and in truth. For him that reprove, I'll read that again, verse 21, that maketh a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate, and turn aside the just for a thing of not. Okay, NLT, it says, those who convict the innocent by their false testimonies, right? So you're going to have a lot of Israelites that will do this, will disappear, just like they did it with Yahweh Shai. A similar fate awaits those who use trickery to pervert justice and who tell lies to destroy the innocent. Okay, I mean, this is true, but kind of goes off point. But this is going into the family of the word. All right. All right. So let's go get this last precept here. I'm gonna close it out. This is Job 20:22. Okay. NLT says, in the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. In the fullness of his sufficiency is him establishing this new world order by the way of the mark of the beast, which is the chip. Every hand of the wicked shall come upon him, right? And that's talking about the other nations via World War III, ICBM missiles and nukes and hypersonic missiles of all sorts being shot at America, aka Babylon the Great. Okay. And it says, when he is about to fill his belly, right? So when he's about to fully establish his new world order, Yahweh shall cast, Yahweh shall cast the fear of his wrath upon him. Okay. And again, that's going into the missiles, and as well as Yahweh Shai is coming with the host of heaven to as well do damage, because the destruction of the missiles, all right, coincides and is synonymous with the deliverance of the hopeful elect. All right, so while that's happening, we got to get beamed up. Yahweh Razor said we're up that number. All right, so it says, and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. And what's the eating part? While he's chipping people and enjoying and enjoying them, and they're enjoying themselves in evil and wickedness. The scriptures tell us about that as well in Revelation. All right, NLT, it says, in the midst of plenty, verse 22, they will run into trouble and be overcome by misery. May Yahweh Bashim Shai give them a belly full of trouble. May Yahweh Bashim Shai rain down his anger upon them. Right? And going back to the King James, I'll read verse 24. It says, he shall flee from the iron weapon, and the bow of steel shall strike him through. It is drawn, and that's talking about the missiles. Okay, so anybody left in America outside of the hopeful elect will be destroyed, all right, by these ICBM missiles, because the top wicked elite, their bunkers are really, mostly are all in Europe. Okay, deep underground bunkers, cities in Europe. Any bunker that's in America will be destroyed. Okay, it's gonna cave in. It says, it is drawn and cometh out of the body, right, which is the silos, right? Yea, which is the delivery system. Yea, the glittering sword, that's the missile itself, cometh out of its gall. Again, the delivery system, the silos. Terrors are upon him. Yeah, because when they see it, even though the Lord has put it in their hearts to orchestrate World War III, because we know that's a part of their plan, but when they see it, and the Lord's going to take control, right? He's giving them, he already is in control, but you know what I mean, okay? When they see those missiles get shot, the whole world is going to be like, yo, because it's going to darken the skies as well, okay? But this is what's coming for America and all those that partake in taking the chip, the RFID chip, all right, the MOTV. And you know what? Slack it. I know that I said this will be my last precept, but this will be my last precept. Revelation 3 and 10, okay? It says, Revelation 3 and 10, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, which is what? This truth. all right? Not turning back from this truth, all right? And keeping our hands on the plow, all right? And that comes with suffering. So, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world, try them that dwell upon the earth. Behold, I come quickly, right? Hold that fast, which thou hast, right? And to hold something fast is to hold it tightly, which is wisdom, knowledge, understanding. How do we hold this tightly? We stay diligent, right? We stay diligent, constantly applying the scriptures and doing the work day in and day out. Okay, until we get beamed up or die for the truth, and then get beamed up. Now, no man take thy crown. That's right. It says, "He that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my power, and he shall go no more out, and I will write upon him the name of my power Yahweh, and the name of the city of my power, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my power Yahweh," right? Coming out of a chariot. "And I will write upon him my new name," which is refreshed, right? Kainos, refreshed, because um, Yahweh Shai, all right, his rank and his order, all right, was refreshed to him after he sacrificed his life for the nation of Israel as that sacrificial lamb. And then he spent his time with the apostles and was beamed up and taken up by a chariot. Okay, so the whole full elect, starting with the 144,000, really, the 144,000 are going to be pillars, all right, in the kingdom of heaven under Yahweh Shai and King David. Okay, which King David is of the 12 as well, and Peter. But they're going to be pillars, okay, on down to the rest of the whole full elect, okay, and the rest of the nation of Israel. But the government is going to be the 144,000, all right? So, yeah, that's it, all right? That's all I wanted to bring out. Didn't want to make this too long. Lord willing, this lesson was straightforward and edifying, all right, to the whole full elect of the nation of Israel. And I'm going to close by giving all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakadash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone rule well. All right. And I've taught this word in truth and sincerity. Peace and mercy to the whole full elect. All right. Starting with 144,000. Abba, Kwamaster Allah, and shalom to the whole full elect.